आर्टिस्ट बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक है विच इज आई थिंक द सोल ऑफ स्टॉक मार्केट्स maximum reward with minimum risk. I mean that is probably the holy grail of the market. This is primarily everybody is here for. There's no such thing called zero risk, but if you can minimize it and maximize your reward, that is probably the best thing ever next to having no risk. So of course Himanshu Sharma sir is there with us, the famously known as the chartist. एंड हमारे पास इससे पहले ही मतलब काफी सारे लोग इंतजार में सर बैठे हुए थे. बहुत सारे कमेंट्स ऑलरेडी आ रहे हैं. लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू लर्निंग, eagerly waiting for the session. Big fan of Himanshu sir. And बहुत ही सारे comments आ रहे हैं सर. 236 people are already there with us live right now. So sir, without any further ado, without waiting anything, I'll hand over the mic to you and I'm here to learn from you, sir.
Okay, so glad to connect with you and thanks for the opportunity. And I will try my best to come in this 1 hour that I have been allotted to. I think it's 9 to 10, so I will try to compress everything within that 1 hour. So I think let me connect to the screen now. So I hope you can see my screen here. So can you see my? Okay.
Yes sir, I can see your screen.
Okay, so is my screen visible to you? Okay.
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Okay,
Clearly
okay,
visible.
okay, okay. So one very important thing to understand is that there are certain things that are under your control, and you need to understand, because see, now in this weekend we are getting some news from Russia, and I see almost all the handles now focusing on what is going to happen on Monday. So nothing is under your control. It's like market is like a radio where you cannot play your favorite track. You are going to hear what is being broadcasted. Only few buttons are under your control. That's your buy point. That decides basically where will be your stop loss, because the closer you go to the point where the stock decides its character or decides its move is your buy point. And position size, how much you will be buying, and your exit point, that is your exit strategy. So it's basically what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, and when to sell. Only these things are under your control, and rest, let me make myself very clear that this is a game of probability. You do your best to analyze a view, form a view, and trade that view. But if you don't sit in hope, so it's just like either you are right or you are wrong. A lot of people sit in hope that okay, maybe it may recover later on, or I won't exit in a loss because the loss is huge. So firstly, very important, what you can control is this: when you enter a stock, how a stock reacts is not under your control. So the whole idea of I would say swing trading or positional trading is your R multiples. What is it basically? This concept was popularized in 1933 by Chuck Branscombe, and later on, you may read a book, Definitive Guide to Position Trading Strategies by Dr. Van Keethark, who popularized this idea. And the book is literally a little beginner, but first few chapters, if you can go through R multiples, chapter number 2 R multiples. So in any field, whether you are trading based on swing trading or positional trading or even investing, you are risking. The moment you come to the market, you are taking a risk. Now, in swing trading, positional trading, you define your stop loss. For investors, they generally do not have a stop loss. But how do they control risk is through diversification. In their portfolio, they are roughly holding about 15 to 20 stocks. So even though one or two positions may go down, the other positions may move up and move the entire portfolio. That's how they manage their risk. Whereas in swing trading, whether you are trading on a big size or a smaller size, the whole idea is that you are risking something. So you have to focus upon R multiple, the gain you will be getting per unit of risk taken. Now, in my early years, I was also making the same mistake. Maybe I was taking a risk of 20, 50 rupees. Sometimes the stop losses were very, so the stock, if my stop loss is 20% deep, the stock has to make a move of at least a 50, 60% to justify me to take this trade. So you need to understand what is basically R multiple. It is nothing like, let's say we are flipping a coin, and if you win, you $2, and if you lose, you will lose $1. So your R multiple is 2, because you were risking $1, and when you win, you get $2. So that's R multiple 2:1. Now, similarly, Chuck Brinskop mentioned that now let's say you are risking 10 rupees and you generated a gain of 100. So R multiple is 10R. Basically involves taking into account of generated per unit of risk taken. Now, how is it important? Now, for example, this is a positional trade. Let's say this stock Balaji Amines broke out somewhere here around at 850 level, and that was post COVID time. So anyone would have taken an entry even earlier also that for later part. But now let's assume you're buying obvious high breakout. Now that's an obvious all-time high breakout. You buy, and I will tell you that the most late entry is when you study on the weekend, and then you see that this chart has already broken out on weekly chart, and then you take entry on Monday. So this stock doesn't know who you are. The stock doesn't know what time frame do you use or are you using, because transactions are recorded every second on the chart. It is even a daily chart is enough, but you are using weekly chart for mental peace, less noise. That is your individual choice. A stock may break out on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, but the most late entry is that you decide to enter on next week's opening,
Sir,
maybe on next
sorry
Monday
to
when you have
actually
done your home.
sorry to interrupt. Actually, जो
Yes.
screen है वो ऑस्ट्रेलिया का उस इंडेक्स की दिख रही है instead of Balaji Mines. If you can,
Okay, okay. So you can't see my screen, you mean?
I can, but उसमें हाँ ऑस्ट्रेलिया 200 का दिख रहा
Okay,
है.
okay. Okay, okay. I just opened it like when I was
Yeah, yeah. तो वो
analyzing my.
switch नहीं हुआ screen का I guess वो. Yeah,
No, no, no issue
yeah,
because TradingView is separately opened up
yeah.
rather than the presentation.
Now it's available. So, yeah.
Okay. So Monday, let's say you decided to buy this stock at 850. Now that's the most basic entry for someone who is a beginner and who doesn't have any idea of the market. Even I was same thing, that you have to buy the obvious high breakouts, wait for the Friday closing and take the entry on Monday. Now in this methodology, let's say you are taking an entry at 850, and you, as usual, you are taught to keep the stop loss at the weekly candle low. That's roughly about 100 points. So assuming that you completely were riding the trend based on your weekly chart and 40 MA principle, as Stan Weinstein sir also mentioned. So let's say assuming that you exited at the perfect point with a gain of 3,000 points. So you risked 100 and you got 3,000. So that's 30R trade. I hope you're getting my point. Now that's 30R multiple, but the time taken is 59 weeks. Now that's the concept of position sizing. Now how do you refine your end? Will be further we will further analyze. But now that's the most basic criteria. I'm assuming you are not pyramiding up, you are not using all options, and you are doing nothing in this trade. You just took a risk of 100. And if a risk is roughly about 10%, position size allowed is 10%, we will cover that. So this is a 30R trade, but it took 59 weeks. Now, the same idea is here, that the time compression, one of the stock that I traded, so I went full size at 212, but let's say I'm entering here without waiting for that obvious high breakout and without waiting for even the weekly closing. If I can time my purchase, we will cover it how to do that. If I can time my purchase perfectly, that means I am taking a risk of 8 to 10 points on a stock of roughly about 190 rupees. That's 4% stop loss. I can also build a heavy size, and if I can get a chunk of it, and that's you'll see here that now this stock quickly moved up 140% in 1.5 months. And I remember here around 212 rupees, both Hikal and Cadila broke together, and the pharma sector was very strong. So again, strong stock from strong sector. First key, what to buy, when to buy. If you can go very close to the least risk point where your stop loss would be around 4%, two advantages. Firstly, at the obvious high, you don't have to wait for the Monday opening. Trade is not crowded. Nobody has done the homework yet. They have now, maybe there are some hardworking souls who can buy before the obvious highs. They are watching the level. Now the stock will change the character here, 4% stop loss. Now, if you can get that major chunk of the move, so here you do not have to spend 59 weeks for that 30R trade. Here, sometimes within a few weeks, you will get around 20 25, 30 hour kind of trade. When you do that multiple times, you come. Now, this is one trade, Denora India. The whole concept is here. Now, again, I mentioned that. Let's say you are buying the obvious highs, and if you are if you are an investor, or maybe a positional trader, you usually don't have a big size. Now, investors usually, I haven't seen any investor holding a stock maybe 15 to 20% in size. Now, there may be some exceptions, but usually all the investors start with maybe 5%, 8% position. In fact, I met one of them, and he was holding Tata Elxsi and the stock went up 8x, but the unfortunate part was that the position size was only 2%. So the stock didn't have any impact on the portfolio.
Sir,
And
sorry
now
to
here,
interrupt again. वो actually एक तो sir cursor नहीं दिख रहा है. If you can mention the dates somewhere around, because cursor is not moving on this screen.
okay, okay, okay.
And second, अभी बालाजी
So,
अमाइंस का ही chart है.
no issue, because this is trading view
Yeah,
opened up. So it is not connected to the PPT.
okay.
That's the point.
Yeah.
That's why that's not moving up.
Yes.
So even if I close the screen, it won't have any impact here.
राइट सो जस्ट
Yeah.
फॉर आवर ऑडियंस, हम लोगों को काफी सारे एक्चुअली कमेंट्स आ रहे हैं, तो जस्ट फॉर द ऑडियंस, अगर आपको दो तीन पॉइंटर्स, इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू सी द चार्ट, वन, यू हैव टू अपडेट द स्क्रीन क्वालिटी ऑफ वीडियो टाइप टू 720 पिक्सेल्स. इट वुड बी इन द सेटिंग्स. यू हैव टू डू दैट. एंड सेकंड, सर जो बोल रहे हैं, लेट्स फोकस ऑन दैट. चार्ट पे जो है वो तो दिखाई देता ही रहेगा हम लोगों को, बट लेट्स फोकस ऑन दैट इंस्टेड. बिल्कुल सर,
Okay.
प्लीज, सॉरी टू इंटरप्ट, प्लीज कंटिन्यू सर.
Okay. Okay. So that's what I'm saying, is that if you are taking the entry at the obvious high here around, so I don't see like any investor taking a bigger position size of 15 to 20 or maybe 25%. So now let's say you enter with around 5% position size. I'm assuming you are not doing pyramiding in any method as of now. So be it positional trading or swing trading, you have not added any further shares. Now, let's say the stock moved up almost 150% on a 5% size. Now, that moved up your portfolio by 7.5%. Now, that's the essence of swing trading. If I can go very close to the least risk point, now this chart I shared on Twitter also, if you can go very close to the least risk point when the stock is in the prime uptrend, it is consolidating on the right hand side, so that you are aware that buyers are sitting here, and during the consolidation phase, volume contracts. The chart was having all the markers. The only time was that the volume initially was very low, and then it picked up later on in the further during the day. So if you can enter with a 4% size, that allows me 25% position size. Now 4% SL allows me to have 25% position size. So now if I can capture this swing only, I move my portfolio 7.5%. So now you see here, the essence of swing trading is not that you have to capture the full move. Even if you capture a small portion of the move and with a bigger position size, then you are quickly you are aware that whether you are right or wrong. Whereas at obvious high, sometimes you have to wait for weeks for the stock to tell you whether you are right or wrong. Here, if you are wrong, quickly you are out. And here, if you move this big size position, you generate 7.5%, assuming these do not have any additional buying of any share. So you see here, now we have to focus on what to buy. Now that's very important part. See, I wrote a thread on Twitter that this is a supermarket. Now stock market is just like a supermarket. Some are fundamental investors who want to maybe renovate their house, and they want to buy television, refrigerator, they want to buy washing machines. They do some fundamentals about the products and the companies, and then they go to the store and then they buy the product. So that's basically fundamental investing. First of all, you decide the macroeconomic aspect of any country, and then you decide, okay, this country is worthwhile of investing now. So let me check the strong sector, and then within the strong sector, strong stock, or maybe a basket of stocks. That's how you go in fundamental investing. Now, technical analyst is like a supermarket store manager who is just recording the transactions of all the products. So if in supermarket store, which in our case is a stock exchange, maybe National Stock Exchange, Bombay Stock Exchange, where NSE has roughly about 2000, 2100 charts, stocks. So I am recording the transactions now. I am noting down who is coming to the market, what are they buying, where are the smart hands interested. So ideally, these 2000 stocks, you can divide them into certain categories. Now there are some pockets where you will find these winning stocks. It's not like that you start from 1 to 2000, because for a working professional that's not a feasible idea also. But there you have to divide the market now. Remember, if you go to the supermarket store and if you see there, they may have like division is the candy store, is the beverages store. Similarly, in the market, you have to dissect the market. So some are relatively stronger stocks that are performing better than the benchmark, irrespective of which country you invest in. So you need a good scanning software. Basically, there are multiple softwares available in the market that gives you that, okay, the 1 month performance of Nifty is, let's say, 10%. Now, these are the stocks performing better than the benchmark. Then you have to look for the IPO stocks separately because they are the newly listed companies. And then you find these charts somewhere in new high ground. So you find not the 52-week high. I don't usually prefer because the whole essence is buying before the obvious highs. You will find them in monthly high list. So the stocks that are making maybe 1 month high, you scan for that list. You will get easily here and there on multiple scanners. Then you look for top gainers, weekly gainers, 1 month gainer, 3 month gainers, gappers, the stock that have a gap up. You look for volume spikes. Maybe now volume spikes is one area that will help you a lot in picking the bottom of any chart. So let's say you want to know my stock XYZ, whether it will stop falling down or not, whether it has made a bottom or not. The selling volume will be absorbed and you will see volume spikes near the lows. So that signals that now the buying interesting is
Sir,
coming in the stock.
uh,
And you may be looking for price breakout of n% or more, maybe like 5%, 6%, 2%, 3%. So this is how you have to dissect the market now, because you have to look for these pockets. Now, before when to buy, you have to first understand the general
sir,
guidelines of risk management.
sorry again for the photo interrupting.
Yeah.
Do we have a PPT on your screen, sir, somewhere that we can maybe share the screen? Audience have been asking
Uh,
for it कि अगर कुछ हो तो हम लोग screen share में instead if we can put up the PPT, they'll be able to catch it better.
okay. Because are you not able to see my screen here? No.
I can see your screen, but the chart is there, sir. We have Balaji Amines chart on the display and not other screens.
So maybe I close it like this now. Now it's fine or not?
Now I can't see any screen. If you share again and maybe presentation को if we can select तो फिर या entire screen का option उसमें अगर आता है.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a second. So uh,
So उसमें
maybe
Chrome tab, window and entire screen आ रहा होगा. If you can share the entire screen, I think that would be the
okay. So entire screen. So
yeah.
now can you see my screen?
Yes, now we can see your screen and your
So
PPT as well.
were you able to see the past PPTs that I covered?
No, that's the whole point. बहुत सारे comments भी आ
Oh,
रहे थे, but आपका flow बना हुआ था and I was not able to
okay.
interrupt.
So my intention was when you are taking an
Yeah.
entry around at 850 and you 150. Now that's the basic concept taught to a beginner, that take your entry on Mondays when the weekend homework is over. I was also taught the same thing, buy at the obvious high. So here you have, and you are taking a gain of, let's say, assuming you are selling at the exact point, you are taking a gain of 3,000 points on a risk of 100 points. So that's 30 R multiple. So remember, I covered that R multiple. The whole idea was introduced by Sir Chuck Branscombe and it was popularized by Dr. Van Tharp. So you can read a book, Definitive Position Guide to Position Sizing and Strategies by Dr. Van K. Tharp. So that all I covered. And in positional trading, you are basically spending those 59 weeks to get that 30-hour trade. Whereas in swing trading, now this was a trade of Hickel I was explaining you. This is not an obvious high. Obvious high is somewhere here. So if you can time your entry before the obvious high, that will cover how to do that. Now here what happens that you are risking roughly about 8 point stop because your stop loss is at the day low or maybe at the previous day low. That's 8 point stop roughly on the stock price of 180, 185 rupees. Now you can generate that same 20 or 30-hour trade in a lesser time frame, less than 59 weeks. Now that's the whole essence of swing trading. That's what I was explaining you in the chart of Dinora. Now let's say you take an entry here at the obvious high. Now all the investors usually go in with 5%, 7% position without any stop loss. Remember, if you are not having a stop loss, you need to diversify maybe with 15, 20 position. That's what investors do. No matter how much you explain any one of them, everyone has their own strategy. So here, if you are I'm assuming that you haven't done any pyramiding. So if you are entering with a 5% position size and the stock makes a move of 150%, you move your portfolio by 7.5%. Now, that's the essence of swing trading. If I go very close to the least risk point where the stock is in a primary uptrend, the volumes are very high, and the stock consolidates rightwards, we will cover that. It's a continuation buy, and here the volume contracts, and I go in at the right time. Volume is kicking in, you take an entry. So that allows you, that 4% stop loss allows you 25% size here. Now with that 25% size, if you can move your just one swing, so it's roughly about, you move your portfolio by same 7.5%. So I'm sure that there will be many wrong trades also, because now you are very going very close to the danger point. So now in here what happens, the whole essence of swing trading is that your 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 winning percentage will slightly come down, because now your few trades will be wrong. But you see here now, the risk reward multiple, the R multiple will be huge. We'll cover that in a short while. So what to buy? I was explaining you that you have to dissect the market like a supermarket store here. You have to look for relatively stronger stocks, IPO stocks, or new high stocks, gappers, the stocks that have a gap, volume spikes. And volume spikes, I was explaining you that it's very crucial to find the bottom in any chart. First of all, the selling volumes get absorbed, the stock consolidates, the stock stops forming a fresh low, or it will form a little higher low. And you can read a book by Sir Richard DeMille Wyckoff, Method of Trading and Investing in Stocks. So it's on section number 7, chapter number 7 of the book. Page number 3, he will start with a chart of 8th and 9th December transaction with a chart, and you can read that section of the book. Now you can look for maybe 5%, 6%. So these are some areas you can focus upon, because these areas have those stronger stocks. No strong stock will move 100, 200% without passing this scan. So that's very important. And now these are some general guidelines for risk management. You don't have to risk more than 1% of your total equity per trade. Now, I assume you have read this statement almost everywhere. Now, there is one very famous legendary trader, and he says that when you are risking 0.25% of your total equity per trade, you are not risking anything. So now here I disagree, because what happens here, when your stop loss is roughly about 2%, you can build on a position size of 25%, and still your risk will be 0.5%. So I can explain you one very, very simple formula. 100 divided by stop loss percentage is your position size, risking 1% on total equity. Or you can do that, position sizing multiplied by stop loss percent is your risk. So let's say your stop loss is 10%. Let's say your stop loss is 10%. You can build on a size of 10%, so that your risk is 1%, because 10 multiplied by 10, that's how we have a shortcut here. Now if your stop loss is 8%, you can build on a position size of 12.5%, and if this position hits your stop loss, you lose 1% of your total equity. Now below that, what happens, when you can go close to the least risk point where the stop loss is 5%, size of 20%, and that risk your 1% of total equity. Now very common thing here, don't it is generally recommended not to go 25% invested in a single stock. Generally it's advised. So what happens here, that when your stop loss is 4%, I hope you got my point, you can build on a size of 25%, so that you can lose 1% of your total equity. Now any stop loss less than 4% can allow a position size of more than 25%, but usually I have gone just one time 30% in one trade, otherwise not more than that, because that's too high a risk sometimes. So let's say if your stop loss is 2% deep, you can still build a size of 12.5% to risk just 0.25%. Now that's why I said that I disagree with the statement. If you are risking maybe less than 0.25% or 0.5%, you are not risking anything. It all depends on where your exact stop loss is. So here now, there are some ways of, see, in this is ideally a stock looks like when it is going down, it forms a bottom. Now here it forms a longer base, and see, lot of fundamental investors also have a misconception, and they think that technical analysis is all about catching momentum. No, that's wrong. It can help you identify the bottoms in any stock. Here the selling volume will subside, the lows fresh, I mean they will be at either at the same level or a little higher. You will see some volume spikes at the bottom, and that's how you can maybe take early entry of, if you want, if you are that kind of trader who, or an investor who wants to catch the stock near the lows, and if you are interested in that particular stock. Otherwise what happens here, the only issue is that the time is unknown. Now you can probably sit for maybe 1 year, 2 year, you do not know when the stock will actually start moving. So I usually prefer when the stock at least comes out of this base, and that's your reversal play, where you are playing this reversal breakout. And the other criteria is that now you extend this scenario on the right hand side. Now the stock is in uptrend. It's usually premature. Sometimes you will see failures here. Sometimes you will see 200 MA will be sitting very close here. Now that's one more area where the stock breaks above 200 MA after forming a base, a smaller base kind of situation. Now that also, see, there are multiple strategies to enter a stock. It all depends on your trading style. I can't say that your style is bad or my style is bad. As long as you make money, everything is right. So here you are playing the reversal play. Now, similarly, when the stock is in an uptrend and it consolidates on the right hand side, we are here trying to play a continuation breakout, continuation buy. The stock is already in an uptrend and we are looking for continuation buy here. So now here I am usually more interested than the reversal plays, because first of all, see, multiple legendary traders have played around here at in their multiple ways. Now here, Sir Jesse Livermore mentioned multiple times that I usually wait for first move of the stock to decide whether it is strong or not. Similarly, Sir David Ryan mentions that I usually wait for the first move and see how strong is the buying force. And when I am sure, then that time, next time I place my bets in it. So that's continuation play. Here I am more interested because I know that prior uptrend is there and buyers have started accumulating the stock, looking visible through the volume spikes. Now, in continuation play, I tweeted this also, that there are multiple ways. Either the stock will have this horizontal line, or it will have a downward sloping line, or it will have a upward sloping line. These are the three possible scenarios, and other than these three, it is not possible anything else, because uh, either it will be like horizontal. Now here practice here, because here you are sure that whether you are right or wrong very quickly, because you have a fixed buy point here. Now in this scenario, every scenario has advantages and disadvantages. Advantage is that it's an early entry, so you're entering little bit earlier, but the pullback will be deeper. The stock may come back to retest this level, and also when it moves up, these points will create a little bit of overhead resistance. So maybe you can buy partial position here and partial position here at the obvious high. So the third scenario that I totally skip is that, because it's not, I usually don't trade slanting lines here. I usually look for these lines. So that's why I mentioned on Twitter also today that Federal Reserve inflation not under your control. You can just buy the stocks above the line. If they fall back, you just sell them. There is nothing else you can do. You don't control those outcomes, and control what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, and when to sell. Only these decisions are under your control. So now here, uh, if I draw a complete picture, here we are having the reversal breakout and the bottom formation. You can read further in the work of Sir Richard Immelwickoff and his method, and then these are continuation bias that I am usually interested in, because here I am sure that I will be making money. The probability will be high, right? Because in reversal breakout, it may fail also, but here once it has confirmed that it is in an uptrend, the probability of failure actually diminishes. So the winning percentage goes up and your efficiency goes up. So there is a formula for trader efficiency, trading efficiency. So that goes up because your winning percentage goes up. So now here, don't run behind matching the chart pattern. See, I can make a lot simple for you. If you see here now, will you call this as VCP? Now that's one common pattern running here on Twitter. Almost every chart you see now, that's VCP, right? Volatility contract, when the price contracts and the breakout. And this is the chart from the book Sir Richard Shebe 32. So see, ascending triangle, cup and handles, symmetrical triangle, all are VCPs. So don't run behind matching the chart patterns. Look at every chart from the perspective of supply and demand. Whether the supply is getting absorbed, the volume contracts, that means there is no more supply now left and the stock will blast off. It may be ascending triangle, symmetrical triangle, how do you care? Almost every chart pattern has these two lines, horizontal or slightly sloping down. So here, these are some recent examples. Now this is the chart of Tata Motor. That's what I was explaining you. Continuation buy. You see that first move, you miss that move. Now some people have anchoring bias. They think that I missed this chart here, so I will not buy. If I will only buy when it comes back to the same level, and that level never comes again, or when it comes back again, the stock is already very weak, so you miss that major portion of the move. So now see here, now it moved up and we have a continuation buy scenario here, the setup here, the stock expands on volume. And so you take an entry here, your stop loss. Now stop loss can be day low, can be base low. There is no one single answer on it. Now it all depends on the market condition. I cannot say maybe you enter with a tight stop loss or you loosen your stop loss from here. Every market condition has a different role to play. The market is volatile. I may be having a tight stop loss maybe at the day low, or if the market is like lenient enough and many past trades are working, I may have a little wider stop. But in any case, the 250 rupee stock almost low at 242, 243. So that's roughly about 3% SL. So now see here, if you buy as the stock is coming out and you have already done your homework from those lists that I mentioned, you are buying exactly at the right point. Your stop loss is very tight. It's roughly about 8.6 point stop. And you see the stock already made a move of almost from 250 to almost 320, assuming you are riding the trend. It's a 70-point move on a risk of 7 to 8 rupees. So that's 10-hour trade within a short period of time. So let's say you have a capital of 10 lakh and you are risking maybe 0.5%, 5,000. So you generated that 50,000, 5% of your portfolio moved up with this small trade. So here is another example. I traded Sexoff. Now you see here the stock moved up, and one very important point is that a lot of people ask me what is the indicator for relative strength. I say that there is no indicator to use, nothing to use. You see, what is the Nifty IT index doing? Now I am asking you, if you are on your computer screen, you can open the chart of IT index. The chart was going down, and almost everyone is doing SIP in the IT index. Then you see three charts: KSOL, Sexoft, and Silent from the IT sector. Look at all three. Now that's what Sir Nicholas Darvas mentioned in his work. I'm looking for the stocks that are resisting the decline, that can swim against the current, because when the current changes, they will be the ones that will fly hard. Now here, Sexoft is, and while the index is going down, maybe Infosys result or whatever reason, leaders are cracking, but this stock is going flat. Now that was the how do you why do you need an indicator on your chart? Merely by common sense, you can pick stronger stocks. You just have to look at the index going down, and these stronger stocks still floating near the same level out. So somewhere here I took an entry somewhere here, 154.64. And the SL was, even if day low or maybe even here, my SL was 4 points. So it was roughly about 2% stop. So with that 2% stop, you get the position size of 25%. Now the stock blasted off after a few days. Now, within 1 hour, I can't actually tell you 10, 20 mistakes that you do. First, you need get you get this consolidation, and then you see in your watch list some other stock flying high. You become impatient, you switch, and suddenly this stock flies high, and your stock sleeps. And you say, oh, I missed that trade. So you have to be patient enough once you have taken an entry. Now it blasted off. I sold somewhere in the. If you calculate the R multiple, it will be roughly about 20 to 25 R trade now in here, because it moved 40. Obviously, I sold somewhere in the middle, so it's roughly about 13 to 15 R trade. So on another example, IDFC First Bank, if you missed here, now that was the change in character, the stock coming up. Now that's the stock coming after consolidation. This is a gap stock. Another second entry was at the gap entry. Third was the continuation buy. This is the pullback buy in a strong stock. And even if you enter at 66 or 66 and a half with a very tight stop of 1 rupee or zero point 0.5 paisa, now a lot people say, won't it be hit when you place a tight stop loss? No, because you're buying as the stock is moving up. You're not buying when the stock is going down, and your risk is very tight, super tight. So if you go wrong, you lose just little, right? You lose 0.25%. So how does it matter? Because if it moves high, you make big return. So this stock thankfully worked in your favor, and you roughly generated 15 to 17 R multiple. Now that's one example. Now here, not everything will work in your favor. That's why you remember I said you either you are right or you are wrong. When you are wrong, get out quickly. Don't argue with the result. Now here I traded this, and then suddenly after 2 days it stopped me out. So I am out with minus 1 hour. So I hope you got the essence of R multiples here. You are basically compressing the time. You are going very close to the least risk point. You are focusing on the stocks in a prior uptrend and then consolidating, or maybe any strategy, whatever do you have. Maybe you are good at picking the bottom in a stock. Maybe you are buying the breakouts around 200, and maybe you are buying pullbacks. Maybe you are buying continuation buy. Maybe you are shorting the stocks near the top. So whatever you are good at, you have to go close to the least risk entry point. Now here it's minus 1 hour trade. Remember, usually the trades will be minus 1 hour. Those are in loss will be minus 1 hour. Occasionally you will have a gap down and you will lose maybe minus 1.5 hour or minus 1.4 hour. So when you plot these, now that's what was popularized by Dr. Van Keetharp. Now that's what was conceptualized in 1933 by Chuck Branscombe in his work. So if you plot, see, you have to record in your journal. Now this is 10 hour, this is 20 hour, this is 5 hour, this is 4 hour. Now if you are up maybe 10 hour, you can sell half of your stock and you will still block that 5 hour in gains. So at least you will have on your graph. Now in an Excel sheet, when you draw this column of your trades, 1 minus 1 hour, minus 1 hour, plus 5 hour, plus 10, you will get something like a curve, right? So if there is any mathematician listening to me, it's the normal distribution curve. We call it the Gaussian distribution or the bell curve. It's symmetric. So I have taken this pic from internet. Otherwise, some of your trades will be here minus 1 hour, and you will see you will have either a rightly skewed curve or a left skewed curve, and you will have most of your average trades maybe 3 hour 4 hours somewhere in the middle, and you will have some outliers like maybe plus 20 hour plus 25 hour. You don't get them often, but most of the trades will be plus 7 hour plus 8 hour, and on the left hand side will be minus 1 hour, minus 0.5 hour, minus 0.75 hour kind of trades. And you will notice that you will have this kind of curve. Now that will not be symmetric depending on your trading style. Sometimes you will have a curve like this. Most of the winners or your average gain is rightly skewed, which is very less. So the whole motto of your trading is aim of your trading is to shift this curve to the right hand side. So you have to uh, look for uh, locking some gains as it moves up on a heavy size, because I can't tell you to hold that 25% size for a longer period of time. So as you lock in the curve to the right hand side. So now assuming you have, let's say, average gain of 3 hour, and let's say your stock is up 10 hour. So if you block that half gain, you are now up 5 hour. So at least in your brain, you know now that this curve will be shifted to the right hand side. That's what your aim is. You have to shift this curve to the right hand side. And again, what to buy, when to buy, and how much to buy is very, very important. And what to sell depends on your average gain here in this sheet now, when to sell. So here you see now, these are some must do tasks for you. You have to focus on gainers of the past. Now that's very important. You should look for the winners of 2016, 2017, 2018. Now you have to do the hard work, and when you read those charts, you see that which is that one particular setup that worked beautifully in the market. So what is the continuation buy, where is the reversal buy, or if I can catch the bottom in those charts, if I can go close to the. So you have to look for the gainers for this week or even today. Now it might be possible that on Monday some stocks moved up 15, 18, 20%. So you have to on their charts what happened usually. Now, as from my experience, I can tell you that there are some random stocks that move up 15, 20%, and it's very difficult to catch them unless you are already holding them, because they move from nowhere. They move from nowhere. So some stocks will be like they have a setup. So for example, go few weeks back and check the chart of Newland Laboratories. You check the chart of Denora, Technocraft. These are some examples with the perfect buy points on those charts. So you have to study the gainers, and then now you have to maintain a trading journal here. That's very important. So you have to multiple parameters to track. You have to track the R multiple, as I mentioned you. What risk have you taken, and how much is the gain that you have booked? So your date of entry, your stock price, your buy price, your stop loss price. That's how you know the risk. Because if I see your portfolio and if I ask you what is the risk that you have taken in this trade, now most of you will not be remembering now what is the initial risk that I have taken. So how do you know when to book the gains and when to get out of this trade, when to hold partial, and when to lock your partial gains? So, and if possible, you have to analyze your trades, and if possible, you can get a chart book printed. So maybe for your trades, you have to print your charts, and you have to note down where were you actually buying, where were you actually selling your stock, and where exactly you were doing wrong. Now this I learned from Sir Mark Minervini, and I also learned this from Sir Charles Kirkpatrick and Sir Juilliard Delquist from their work. If you read the book Think and Trade Like a Champion by Mark Minervini, on the back cover, there is a comment by Charles Kirkpatrick's own work. So they usually create a report card from the trading journal. They usually do that. So you can analyze whether your buy was perfect, whether your sell was perfect, or whether you sold it at a stop before the stop loss, even when or you time the trade perfectly. So there are multiple ways of analyzing the chart. So if I can show you, like I have this chart book. Have the printout of the charts with me, so that you can maintain a chart book not only for your own trades but for the stronger charts that you have to track them. So that's all. If you have like any doubt here, so I hope within the shorter time frame I was able to cover most of the issues that are pertinent. So over to you.
राइट सर, आई थिंक मोस्ट ऑफ द कमेंट्स में, एक तो लोग मेरे से बहुत नाराज हैं कि स्क्रीन शेयर में मेरे को इंटरप्ट करना चाहिए था, बट वो मेरे को भी आपका
So
फ्लो जो बना हुआ था मैं ब्रेक नहीं करना चाह
So
रहा था.
maybe it's like
सेकंड,
I was explaining like things you can control. So now you have a radio in your hand. You can only control your buy point. Remember, again saying market is like a radio. Now whatever is coming from the side of the radio, that you cannot control. You cannot play your own favorite track in the radio. You have some buttons. You can only control the volume, or maybe switch on the channel, maybe move from one stock to another stock, but that's roughly you can control. You can control your buy point, quantity to buy, because that is dependent on where are you actually buying, and you can control your exit point. So what to buy, when to buy, how much to buy, and when to sell, these are like important topics. Now R multiples I explained you, and that's how we went on from this Balaji main trade to further next down. So you missed just maybe one or two slides, and nothing more, right?
राइट, ऑसम। नेक्स्ट सर, इसमें लोगों को जो कंफ्यूजन है दैट इज कि एक तो जो आई थिंक टाइम फ्रेम है वो डेली, वीकली, किस पे जनरली व्हाट शुड दे प्रेफर?
So actually, in swing trading, we prefer the daily charts. So see again, transactions are taking place every second. So an intraday trader will focus on maybe 5 minutes or 15 minutes chart. A day trader that move for a swing trader, it's roughly daily chart. Weekly, maybe you can see to check the position of any stock. Where is it in the overall trend? Now, I can't recommend this thing to a working professional. He can't be checking the daily chart, skipping his office work. Otherwise, he has to resign like I did. So you have to like focus on daily charts for these strategy because now you are compressing the time. The whole idea is to compress the time. The same 50, 55 hour, 30 hour, 40 hour I was taking in maybe 1.5 year or 2 years. Now I want that same return in 30 days, 40 days. So I have to be very specific, close to the point, and specific with the position sizing rule so that I can capture the same move in a shorter time period. Right.
राइट। नेक्स्ट सर, एक क्वेश्चन ये है कि हाउ लॉन्ग वॉच लिस्ट डू यू मेंटेन, लाइक कितने बड़े उसमें स्क्रिप्ट्स में आप देखते हो एंड हाउ डू यू डू दैट?
So what I do is that I have one my final list. So what happens that I run these scans daily, like relative strength, IPO stocks or highs, monthly high. I run this scan daily. So usually with my experience, I'm telling you 80-90% of the stocks are same every day. So they are already in my watch list. Pops up, I will put in the watch list, and then the next day morning, 1 hour before the market, I will scan if anything is perfectly buyable. Not all charts are perfectly buyable. So if you filter down those setups, you will reach 10 to 12 good looking setups, and out of them, some will be large caps that I don't trade. Like Bank of Baroda was one. I traded futures for a short time, then I exited because it's a 1 lakh CR company. So I same firework from a 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakh CR company. So I can expect the same from a 5,000 CR or maybe a 6,000 CR company. So I prefer the smaller cap names. So once you do this, you get further filtered down to 7 or 8 setups, and then you can look for the sector, maybe the strong sector. So then you will be really focused upon 4 or 5 names, and out of those 4 to 5 names, I always say a lot of people ask me which one to buy. Now, only later on, you have to go to the temple 1 hour every day because only God can tell you what to buy now. Because after 4 to 5 setups you have selected, now further, if you go deeper enough, it's a strong start. We call it opening gap right at between 9 8 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. You see which stock out of my focus list is opening a little higher than the yesterday's closing price, so they are like little stronger. So if you do that, you will literally be going down to 3 setups now. So out of those 3, now whichever hits your alert first, you buy and then you continue.
राइट, ऑसम। ओके, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है सर, एग्जिट के लिए दो चीजें हो सकती हैं, या तो स्टॉप लॉस हिट हुआ विच वी ऑलरेडी सॉ ऑन द स्क्रीन कि वो लाइन आपने मार्क कर ली जहां पे बेस बना था, दैट इज योर स्टॉप लॉस। व्हाट अबाउट द टारगेट, हाउ डू यू डिसाइड योर टारगेट्स कि अब इनफ पैसा आ गया और काट लिया जाए?
एक्चुअली ना टारगेट का होता ही है कि लाइक देर आर मेनी चार्ट पैटर्न्स इन टेक्निकल एनालिसिस. सो अगेन आई मेंशन्ड ऑन ट्विटर, टारगेट इज, see when a stock is going up, why do you need a target, right? Just ride it till, सर ये ना ऐसा
राइट,
क्वेश्चन है लाइक मेरे को पैसे हैं तो मेरे को टारगेट चाहिए क्योंकि मुझे बेचना है. So I wrote on Twitter, like when you love someone, you don't say, I will love you for 7 days or 8 days. It's a relationship. So similarly, Sir Larry Hite wrote a book, The Rule. He says, why do you want to interrupt a trend? So you do not have a target. As long as you are making the money happy, you may be locking half of the gains and then have a maybe 20 MA or maybe a smaller stop, a trailing stop, and ride it till it goes. So see, nobody can tell you that. See, when Tata Elxsi was 5,000, fundamental investors were saying it is overvalued. It went to 10,000. So if someone bought at 1,400 breakout, he made literally 8x. So you never know how long can a stock move up. So it's beyond your imagination. Now Venus pipe is one name, वो रुक ही नहीं रहा है नीचे से, तो आप why do you need a target? So why do you want to sell it? Target may be like, okay, I risk 10 rupees, now I gain 50, 60, so maybe I can lock half and then I further trail the rest. So that's how you can go with it.
राइट राइट ऑसम नेक्स्ट सर एक क्वेश्चन 2-3 बार लोगों ने पूछा है, हाउ टू हैंडल अ सिचुएशन व्हेन देयर इज अ गैप अप और गैप डाउन होता है, तो उसमें क्या करना है?
हाँ सर, उसमें ना ऐसा एक आंसर है। सी, मैंने वही बोला, आपका अगर स्टॉप लॉस, आपको मैथमेटिक्स समझना पड़ेगा। आपका स्टॉप लॉस है लेट से 4% का, तो आपको मैं ये नहीं कह रहा कि आप 25% साइज ले लीजिए अगर आप बिगिनर हैं। लेट से आपका स्टॉप, जैसे टाटा मोटर ट्रेड में इट्स रफली 2.5%, सो 2% स्टॉप पे मैं 25% पोजीशन भी बनाता हूं तो मेरा 0.5% का रिस्क है। अगर वो स्टॉक उसी दिन चलता है, मुझे मोमेंटम देता है या कंसोलिडेट करता है, देन इट इज ओके, आई एम होल्डिंग इट। right now what happens, very rarely continuation buy में gap downs होते हैं, very rarely. If you compare it with the stocks in a downtrend, then you may have a gap up. Now let's say you bought a stock, so उसका एक तरीका है, अगर आपको गैप डाउन से इतना डर लग रहा है, यू गो इन विद हाफ साइज इनिशियली। सो लेट्स से 12.5% का आपने पोजीशन बनाया एंड योर स्टॉप लॉस इज 2%, सो यू विल लूज 0.25%, मीन कि वो 10% गैप डाउन कर गया instead of that 2%. So now your risk now is 1.25%, 1% to 1.25%. So that's the maximum risk we want to take. And that is very rare. So if you are very close to the buy point, then in that case, आपका gap down भी अगर होता है, see gap down firstly, एक ना वो बहुत डर बना हुआ है सबका कि एक गैप डाउन हो जाएगा, तो वो इतना, मतलब बहुत रेयर केसेस में ऐसा रहता है कि इट्स अ गैप डाउन। सो सी, वो होता है या तो कोई न्यूज रिलेटेड हो, आप जब अर्निंग है तब आप लेस साइज से ट्रेड करिए, और इफ यू हैव अ प्रॉफिट कुशन देन ओनली यू होल्ड इट। अदरवाइज यूजुअली क्या होता है, व्हेन देयर इज अ कंटिन्यूएशन बाय, देयर आर वेरी लेस चांसेस ऑफ अ गैप डाउन इन अ स्टॉक। It happened recently in HDFC case when I think there was some news and it gapped down. So I was already sitting in gain. I locked some portion and then remaining. That's why if you're risking 2%, it moved up 10%. Now it's 5R. So you may sell 30% to reduce your risk considerably. So that's how you handle the gap downs.
राइट राइट ऑसम ऑसम नेक्स्ट सर एक इंटरेस्टिंग क्वेश्चन था विच वाज कि आपने बताया कि रादर देन रीडिंग लाइक थाउजेंड्स ऑफ बुक्स आपने पढ़ी हैं एंड उसके बाद भी रियलाइज कि द बेस्ट पार्ट इज कि आप अपना ट्रेडिंग जर्नल को रीड करो, दैट इज प्रोबब्ली द नेक्स्ट ग्रोथ फेज आएगा आपकी जर्नी में। आपकी एक जर्नल में इफ यू कैन गिव अस अ रनडाउन कि आप क्या क्या, एक टिपिकल एंट्री में क्या क्या होता है, जो जर्नल की आप एंट्रीज करते हो उसमें क्या क्या नोट
सर
डाउन?
फर्स्टली, जर्नल ना हाथ से मेंटेन होता है।
ओके
सो मेरा हाथ से होता है बिकॉज आई एम नॉट दैट एक्सेल वाला। सो उसमें आपका बाय प्राइस रहता है एंड देन व्हाट स्टॉक ऑब्वियसली यू, which stock you bought, and then it's like your risk taken, you, because your stop loss is there one column, so you have your risk taken, and when are you locking the gain, selling price, so you know the R multiple and quantity you bought obviously, and then the date you sold it, because you want to see how long were you holding a winner versus a loser. And there are multiple ways now later on to track that, multiple things, if there is any outlier in the journal. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इस महीने फॉर एग्जाम्पल 13% बन गया, बट उसमें से एक ही ट्रेड था जिसकी वजह से 11% बना, सो ट्रेडिंग इज नॉट दैट गुड। आपको ये समझना होगा, दैट्स एन आउटलायर काइंड ऑफ सिचुएशन, यू आर नॉट कंसिस्टेंट एनफ, इट जस्ट लाइक एक ट्रेड से पैसा बन गया। सो अगर वो एक ट्रेड नहीं होता तो व्हाट विल यू डू? सो नाउ इन दोस केसेस देयर इज एन आउटलायर, then you have to look for the drawdown from the peak. So your portfolio should move like Dow theory, forming higher highs and higher lows. So एक बार आपका capital let's say 10 lakh है, वो 12 lakh पहुंच गया, तो now 10.5L will be your base level, जिसके नीचे will now stop trading and you will take a break. So that you have a higher low structure. So then it's like the structure of your capital. And then when you take your like I if I can show you, like I am marking on the chart itself, like where is the buy point, where is the sell point. So you know that how many of the trades were like when I took the perfect buy. Trust me, in initial few months you will literally feel like to abuse yourself, क्योंकि एंट्री इतनी बुरी होगी, आप जर्नल खोलेंगे आपको लगेगा ये मैं खरीद क्यों रहा हूँ, एक महीने बाद जब आप एनालाइज करेंगे तो फिर धीरे धीरे आप जर्नल से ही एनालाइज करेंगे कि यहाँ गलती हो रही है। इट्स लाइक कॉमन टू एनी अदर स्पोर्ट, द मोर यू प्ले द मोर यू लर्न, वैसा है इसमें।
राइट, राइट, ऑसम, ऑसम। सर, डू यू यूज एनी स्क्रीनर्स इन स्टॉक्स को फाइंड करने के लिए, या मैन्युअली ही स्कैन करते हो सेटअप्स को आप?
सर मैनुअली मैं डेली इसलिए स्कैन करता हूँ सब कुछ क्योंकि मैं फ्री हूँ।
हम्म,
तो आपको स्क्रीनर मैं रन करता हूँ, स्क्रीनर के लिए आपको कोई फैंसी स्टफ नहीं, मार्केट में बहुत सारे स्क्रीनर्स हैं रिलेटिव स्ट्रेंथ में। मैं नाम लूँ तो मार्केट स्मिथ इंडिया है, स्पाइडर है, स्टॉकेज है, बहुत सारे स्क्रीनर्स हैं अवेलेबल। एंड अगर आपको आईपीओ स्टॉक्स देखने हैं वो एनएससी की साइट पर ही लिस्ट मिल रही है। तो पीपल आर लिटरली रनिंग बिहाइंड स्क्रीनर, सो वो सब कुछ इंटरनेट पे इजीली अवेलेबल है सर। सो मंथली हाईज इफ यू वांट टू स्कैन, 52 वीक हाई एनएससी दे रहा है, मंथली हाई, 1 मंथ गेनर, 3 मंथ गेनर हर जगह मिल रहे हैं आपको। सो यू जस्ट हैव टू पुल आउट दैट लिस्ट, have a good trading software, maybe TradingView or some other software, pull out that list and you have to go through the charts. So that's the only way. Manual scan I do because I'm free. I don't recommend that to a working professional. So again, very important thing is to note down is that आपके filter कितने लगे हुए हैं। It's like buying a mobile phone from Amazon. When you buy, you have like मेरे को RAM चाहिए 16 GB, कैमरा चाहिए 48 मेगापिक्सल, तो आपने देखा फोन ही 4 निकल के आए, आपने बोला अरे ये तो कुछ मिला नहीं, तो आपने फिल्टर लूज करे। सो अर्लियर आई वाज मेकिंग मिस्टेक, फिल्टर 8 लगा दिए, स्टॉक ही निकल के आए और वो पूरे मार्केट के स्टॉक भाग रहे हैं, मेरे ही नहीं भाग रहे हैं, बिकॉज मेरा वाला भाग चुका है तभी इन सारे फिल्टर से निकल के आया। सो यू हैव टू डिसाइड कि आपके फिल्टर कम रखने हैं आपको, विच इज एक्चुअली नॉट इम्पोर्टेंट। अगर आप वॉल्यूम फिल्टर लगा देंगे, फॉर एग्जाम्पल मैं पहले वाले वर्जन में बहुत साल पहले अगर कर रहा होता तो मैं न्यूलैंड लैब्स मिस कर देता ब्रेकआउट से पहले, बिकॉज 23,000 शेयर ट्रेड हुए हैं। आप बोलेंगे कि मेरे को 1 लाख शेयर चाहिए मिनिमम, तो ब्रेकआउट से पहले जब कॉन्ट्रैक्शन होता है वो स्टॉक लिस्ट से बाहर हो गया, क्योंकि ब्रेकआउट पर ही आया वो आपके रेडार पे। सो दैट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट। स्क्रीनर से ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है आप देखना क्या चाहते हैं, जो आप देखना चाहते हैं वो आपको दिखेगा मार्केट में, वैसा है।
इनफैक्ट आई थिंक वॉल्यूम के टर्म्स में आपने ये एग्जांपल दिया, पीटर लिंच का भी यही कहना है कि एज अ रिटेल ट्रेडर हमारी स्ट्रेंथ यही है कि वी कैन गेट इनटू दो स्टॉक्स जिसमें अभी थोड़ा कम वॉल्यूम है, अभी इंस्टीट्यूशंस नहीं घुसे हैं अभी तक।
हाँ करेक्ट। सो सी तरीका सबका वही, मैंने बोला ना, ये आप एक बार सुपरमार्केट में घुस गए तो वही 2000 प्रोडक्ट पड़े हुए हैं। अब बहुत लोग आते हैं, मैं सारे पेनी उठा लूंगा, पीछे का वो सामान जिसपे मतलब रैपर भी खराब हो चुका है, कोई नहीं खरीद रहा, मुझे वो वाले लेने हैं जा करके। और कोई आता है नहीं यार इधर भीड़ है मुझे इधर जाना है। सो इट डिपेंड्स ऑन कि आपको क्या चाहिए मार्केट में। इफ यू कैन सिट फॉर 10 years तो आप पेनी की बास्केट बना लेते हैं कुछ लोग, तो वो उसमें भी पोर्टफोलियो डाइवर्सिफिकेशन है, तो एक आधा पेनी भी चल गया, वैसे भी ड्रीम्स हैं, विच इज नॉट रॉन्ग। आई मीन आई वाज आल्सो डूइंग द सेम थिंग, बिगिनर थे तो लगता था ये 2 रुपए का है, 200 हो जाएगा तो मैं तो ऐसे नोट बिछा के सोऊंगा, तो वैसा ख्वाब आते हैं स्टार्टिंग में। तो इट ऑल डिपेंड्स वेयर डू यू एग्जैक्टली वांट टू फोकस योर टोटल एनर्जी।
राइट, राइट, ऑसम। So sir, it's 10, unfortunately हमारा टाइम खत्म हो गया है, but two things before I let you leave. One sir, of course this was not enough. I know आपके पास जितना knowledge और experience है उससे 1 घंटा does not, मतलब हम लोग probably 5% भी नहीं अभी तक समझ पाए आपसे जो हम लोग समझ सकते हैं, तो please allow us again to host you and learn more from you.
Sure, definitely.
And second sir, before you leave, one final piece of advice for all our listeners, if you can give us.
So the advice is same, that you have to think that market is right. You are not right. You are here to make money. You are not here to prove anyone कि मैं सही हूँ। If either you are right or you are wrong, इसमें ज्यादा दिमाग, देखो मैं इतना पढ़ने के बाद आपको सीरियसली बता रहा हूँ, इतना दिमाग यहाँ नहीं लगाना है। यहाँ पर डिसाइड करना है, अप ट्रेंड में है, एक लाइन खींचनी है, उसके ऊपर जाएगा तो लेना है, लाइन के नीचे आएगा तो बेच देना है। इसमें रशिया क्या कर रहा है, यूक्रेन क्या कर रहा है, वो सब अपने को कर भी नहीं सकते हैं, मेरा कोई कंट्रोल भी नहीं है। तो मेरे अगर 8 स्टॉक हैं उसमें से 6 का एसएल हिट हो गया तो मैं शांति से बाहर बैठ जाऊंगा, जब तक नहीं हिट हुआ है मैं प्रॉफिट में हूँ। आई विल यूज दैट प्रॉफिट फॉर द स्टॉप लॉस ऑफ नेक्स्ट ट्रेड। अगर पैसा बनता जा रहा है, आई कीप ऑन डूइंग दैट, और वो पैसा बन गया तो उसको बचा करके रखिए, दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज आपका पैसा बन गया, आप लगे हुए हैं, मार्केट आपको बाहर फेंके जा रही है, मार्केट इज नॉट राइट, आप वो सारा प्रॉफिट वापस कर देते हैं। सो इट्स वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू प्रिजर्व योर कैपिटल। वही तरीका है इसमें, ज्यादा योर ब्रेन इज द मशीन, इसको ज्यादा गर्म करके कुछ नहीं मिलेगा। तो यू हैव टू टेक द लीस्ट रिस्क एंट्रीज और मे बी द परफेक्ट एंट्रीज, एंड देन लाइन के ऊपर ले लीजिए, लाइन के नीचे बेच दीजिए। सिंपल यही करना है इसमें, एंड रेस्ट ऑल द स्टफ इज विच यू फाइंड कॉमन इन द बुक्स की क्या लेना है, कैसे करना है, वो सब है उसमें।
Right. Awesome. 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 Thank you so much, Himanshu sir, टाइम निकालने के लिए, हमसे बातें करने के लिए। आई रियली कांट थैंक यू इनफ। एंड और ऑडियंस, अभी भी सर हम लोगों का आई थिंक अराउंड 450 people were listening to us at the peak, and still 400 people are live, which is just amazing. All hats off to you, sir.
No, thank you very much, thank you for the point. It's always pleasure to connect with the like-minded audience, that's the reason I'm always on Twitter. So thank you very much.
Thank you.